Good afternoon, everyone. Dear colleagues, let us present our paper, Remote Study for the Humanities and Social Sciences, Digitization and Coaching. The globalization of society is changing the way we communicate and see the future. A high school graduate who is no longer satisfied with traditional teaching methods faces changes fearlessly and accepts challenges of today in order to master the tools of high-speed communication and be able to work under stress while coping with tough competition in the job market. With an extensive growth of educational services these days, such high school graduate does not only stop studying continuously, but also positively perceives the existing being of self-education and self-development. The new paradigm of education in the global world provides everyone with access to education and continuous development of competences that meet the requirements of a globalized society. Our paper highlights the competences that can be formed during the study of the humanities and social sciences at university, and which will lead to improvement of the young people's well-being on the one hand, and result in their ability to become highly competitive in the labor market on the other. These competences should also promote the social integration and cohesion of the Ukrainians through their active involvement in public activities. The research makes use of such terms as remote study, online learning, distance learning, and distance education. It is followed that online learning and distance learning share some similarities. Both require use of online learning tools. However, these two terms may not be confused. The three factors are important to differentiate them. They are location, interaction, and intention. With online learning, the instructor may invite students to join the same classroom for digital assignments as assessments. With distance learning, students don't work online together in class. On the contrary, distance learning happens when students study, whereas the instructor assigns jobs, exercises, assignments, and checks them in digitally. Interaction is also important. In online learning, the communication happens in person in class with one another. In distance learning, the study is usually carried out individually and independently. As intention is concerned, online learning adopts just another teaching technique of in-person communication, that is digital, as compared to distance learning, which is a variety of teaching styles. It is rather a technique used for teaching or instructing students individually, no participation of the group. For the purpose of the paper, online learning and distance learning combine to represent the idea of remote study. Finally, remote study and distance education here are used interchangeably. The difference is that distance education is a broader term than remote study, and further, remote study may be characterized by the same content styles as online classes, but other instructional methods could apply. Leadership coaching technology can be of high value in education in general and remote study of the humanities and social sciences in particular. The focus of coaching in education strongly links to distance learning and distance education as is individually designed to meet the needs and motivation of the student. The online learning as part of the curriculum may sometimes discourage students for its imperative form on the time management and group discussions and meetings. However, it can develop strong leadership skills and grow desire for self-realization, self-management, self-study. It is obvious that the teaching in the system of distance education becomes the carrier of new roles and responsibilities. Such teacher masters cloud-oriented approaches to the open information educational space, uses flexible, personalized, and open organizational system, which altogether becomes possible with the use of cloud and mobile services, uses e-learning course management system for successful organization of distance learning. Therefore, the gears to consider certain coaching-specific initiatives based on key competences defined by students for remote study, focusing on distance learning as opposed to online learning, relating to the humanities and social sciences, and anticipate the positive results upon their implementation in higher education via coaching format of communication. Research associated with the introduction of innovative technologies in education has been under the academic eye for many years. Similarly, innovative technologies in the educational process for competences development in a globalized society are immensely appealing to a great number of domestic and foreign scholars. It is critical to note that the survey results presented in the paper are the data processed from the third round of surveys conducted at Kryvyi State Pedagogical University and the National University of Life and Environmental Sciences of Ukraine. Round 1 of the surveys under study concerns the impact of COVID-19 on the educational process in university and aimed to identify advantages and disadvantages of online learning as part of remote study, explained by students and their recommendations. And the case study lasted 4 months from the 1st of September 2020 until the end of the semester. Round 2 of the surveys was conducted in 2021 at 4 universities in Ukraine, the 2 of which are mentioned. The specifics of the study was the qualitative method in pursuit of the data collection associated with the ethnographic focus in the research approach. The goals were to identify and determine the preferences of university administration, either to manage or lead people in communicating change and work cultural tolerance in higher education in Ukraine. Round 3 of the survey was conclusive in the chain of data collection, processing, analysis up to implementation of coaching technologies in the educational processes, and the findings discuss remote study for the humanities and social sciences, feedback of students on remote study, advantages and disadvantages, students' expectations and needs for the future competitiveness in the job market, domestically and global. In order to clarify the advantages and the disadvantages, we had 100 students from the faculties of natural sciences and philology at Kryvyi State Pedagogical University and faculty of the foreign philology and translation at the NUBIP Ukraine. What we may have here that only 12 people assessed it negatively and stated they didn't adapt to remote study. The other 18% admit both pros and cons of remote study, online learning, and distance learning. And the vast majority of students are positive about remote study as opposed to the data collected and analyzed in 2020. The analysis of students' answers in round 3 after implementation of the coaching technology into the educational process provided an opportunity to distinguish the following advantages of remote study, online and distance learning. Time optimization, no need for mechanical note-taking and writing up, wide involvement of electronic resources with source database, diversification of remote sessions with multimedia resources, availability of all educational methodical materials in the cloud storage, creation of psychological comfort room in distance classes, increased confidence, reduced stress, combination of study and work, mobility, convenience, optimization, and involvement of digital technologies in the process of preparation for classes and especially during classes, which promotes opportunities for professional development with the development of digital competence. Just a small percentage of students, of about 12%, commented they didn't see the benefits of remote study, and they named the disadvantages were inconsistency of technical support, low quality of internet connection, lack of direct contact with teachers and fellows for live communication, difficulties in final reporting, negative impact of gadgets on health, psychological discomfort, monotony, and a sense of conservation in the online world. Following the feedback from the students of the universities, online and distance learning, it's collected and analyzed that in most cases, dissatisfaction relates to the emotional part to the discussed and the conscious understanding of low competence of entrepreneurship. Even with 12% of negative comments, it is unreasonable to consider some approaches and ways of what can be done to improve the situation. Table 1 and Table 2 demonstrate the formation of entrepreneurial and social competences stated by the students as the most necessary for the contemporary days. however lagging behind with using digital technologies. Tables show that projected skills, which result in the groups of competences integrating those proposed in 2017 and expected to be relevant until 2025. The study unveils the strategies for remote study online and distance. A survey on the emotional and value attitude of students to remote study, especially distance learning, showed that the vast majority of students positively evaluated. It's relevant to consider the recommendations to promote the development of digital competence of students at a variety of educational institutions. Increase of hours, introduction to the curriculum of disciplines aimed at the formation development of digital competence, development of soft skills, and the ability to comprehensively solve problems, cooperate, communicate, literacy. Thank you for your attention. Any questions, please?